Yes, good evening. I am the Maven of the Eventide, and welcome to Vampire Review!
I want some milk.
What do you want?
I want some milk.
Milk? What have I told you about milk? How about a blood pop?
No, Papa.
Tonight, we consider the 2000 film The Little Vampire, which is kind of nothing like the 1970s German book series it was based on, nor the Canadian TV adaptation from the 80s, nor the German TV series from the 90s. No, the film is pretty much its own thing, and that thing is a cliché turn-of-the-century wannabe Disney children's movie. But with vampires! Little vampires. Though, you know, I've seen littler.
Brains!
No, not brains. Vampires don't like brains.
Vampire like steak.
Steak? Did you just say steaks? Now you're just trolling me. Anyway, the film takes place in Scotland and features German director Uli Edel, but it's very obviously made for American audiences. It stars Jonathan Lipnicki as not the little vampire, but as an even littler human, Tony, who befriends a fun-sized vampire, Rudolph. In the highly successful book series, these kids take a long time to gradually develop their friendship and come to learn about the differences between them and their lifestyles. But the film doesn't focus on that.
My best friend's a vampire! Yeah!
Here, they're Insta-friends, and the plot is about them teaming up against the big bad adults, because of course it is. The main antagonist is the vampire hunter Rookery, who apparently escaped from a Mad Max movie. He wants to kill all the vampires because, well, they're vampires. That's usually how it goes. They are murderous, blood-drinking creatures of the night, which, if you don't kill them, will make more murderous, blood-drinking creatures of the night until the world is doomed. But here is the twist. Like many other children's media I can name, the role of the vampire here is subverted. They're not the villains, they're the victims! They're just misunderstood. They don't hurt people at all. They only eat animals, and Rookery is a big old meanie bigot bad guy for hunting them.
I'll catch you!
You're human. You're full of blood.
Gonna keep it that way, dude.
See, Tony is into vampires, but he's still scared for his life until he finally gets to know one. And then he has the coolest best friend ever, dude. The message this movie wants to impart is that if you just take the time to understand and listen to people who you think are strange or different or even scary, you can make amazing friends in unlikely places. And this is a good lesson for kids to learn, sure. Not that all kids media needs to have a lesson, but if it does, you want it to be a good one. However, learning about friends coming in a variety of shapes and sizes is not what this movie is actually really about. That whole theme gets delivered in one scene, and the vampires are presented as practically flawless saints throughout the rest. The bulk of this movie is about bullies. At the beginning, we see Tony bullied by his dad's boss's grandkids at school. This is paralleled in how the poor, marginalized vampires are bullied by hunters like Rookery. When Tony acquires his awesome, powerful vampire biffle, they bond over being tormented and team up to get revenge on the bullies from school. Now, this could be interesting if it were presented as a bad choice he makes that he has to learn from, but it's not. It is pure revenge fantasy, which has no consequences for Tony. Instead of growing to be a better person because of his experience as a victim of bullying, he becomes the bully himself, and the film presents this as a victory. And as it's the vampire that gives him the ability to do this, it undermines the film's effort to present the vampires as an innocent, maligned people, contradicting that whole previous message. Although the vampire probably wouldn't have done this revenge stuff without Tony's influence. Rudolph does it as a favor for his friend, but he is presented as a much healthier and kinder person than any of the human kids. And this comes down to parenting. Both Tony and the school bullies have neglectful parents. Tony's especially don't understand or accept his quirks, but Rudolph's parents are very involved with his identity. They are strict, but fair, providing discipline and a sense of safety and stability to raise a balanced child, even if that child is a 300-year-old vampire. In the previous incarnations of the little vampire, the vampire family was presented as much scarier, violent, and threatening. But in the film, we see, once we take the time to get to know them, that they're just protective because of how much they've been victimized. And they accept Tony right away as well once they get to know him. That definitely doesn't happen in the books. But here, you see, all these vampires want is to stop being vampires. Fools. So they have to find this amulet by the time a comet arrives to complete a ritual to turn human. Now, you'd think the vampire hunter would be supportive of this, but no, he wants them to stay vampires so he can kill them, because he's just so big and bad. This movie really wants you to know he's big and bad. I mean, you'd think, at least according to the humans in this world who haven't been enlightened about vampires being actually nice, the vampire hunting would be presented as a noble cause, right? He'd seem like a hero. But the film makes this guy just such a jerk about it to all the humans.
Now, I will admit that my fee is substantial. Fee? I'm to pay you a fee for what?
This heavy-handed allegory of the sort of self-righteous people in the real world who think they're doing a public service by targeting other people is too over the top to be an impactful criticism. In reality, such people usually do believe that what they're doing is for the good of the world. But the film goes out of its way to make it clear that all Rookery cares about is a paycheck. Just because it's a kids' movie doesn't mean we can't have a complex villain. I was actually on board with thinking he was a deluded guy with serious psychological issues or something until they tossed in that line about money. Like, wait, that's why he's doing this? If they had left out that bit entirely, the character would have been much better off for it.
And there'll be more, unless we come to some arrangement.
At the end, they defeat Rookery, and the vampires turn human. Which is another not good lesson about bullies here. Their solution to escape ostracization is to give up what makes them special and become normal. Meanwhile, Tony doesn't have to change at all. He had fun playing in his fantasy for a while, but in the end he goes back to normal as well to fit in with the world. It's his parents who have to change, learning to see Tony's inner awesomeness that was there all along. Meanwhile, the effects of his revenge last, and the bullies at school no longer bother him. And any effort he made to learn how to be friends with different kinds of people doesn't matter, because those people conform to be like him in the end. Yeah. At the end of this film, there are no vampires. But isn't it good to know that if you just be normal like everyone else, you'll be happy? So happy. But while there's still vampires, these are Rudolph's siblings, Anna and Gregory. Anna is instantly in love with Tony the second she meets him, because, of course, this film has to follow the rule of female characters in boy movies being either only moms or love interests, even if they're only 9. This is part of the whole revenge fantasy. Not only does Tony get the awesome vampire friend, he also gets a pretty girl throwing herself at him despite doing nothing to earn her interest. He doesn't seem to be that into it, thank goodness he's a baby, but this is presented as wish fulfillment fantasy for the kids in the audience.
We must be near the cemetery. Follow me. To the ends of the earth, my darling.
Are revenge fantasy films for children a good idea? Hey, how do you feel about revenge?
Revenge is bad.
Well, unless it's against werewolves. Gregory is undoubtedly the most interesting vampire in the film, and it's a shame his part is so small. He fills the cliché role of the black sheep vampire who does want to prey on humans. This is directly resultant of the fact that he's a teenager, because of course all teenagers are rebellious, don't you know?
We are the dark gods. You've turned us into cowards, skulking round our holes like worms.
What would you have us do?
Fight back!
But what makes him more interesting than other "we should be ruling these pathetic mortals" vampires we've seen before is that he does have the same parents as Rudolph and Anna. He disagrees with their lifestyle, but they are competent and loving enough to keep him from crossing completely over to the dark side. They manage his rebelliousness because they understand the frustration he feels for being maligned. They are realistic about the complex emotions of being victimized, and they know that making the hard choice of not punishing humans for hurting them is the right path. Their example eventually gets through to Gregory, and he is a dynamic enough character to grow from this experience despite his minimal screen time. And yet, Tony, the audience insert character, learns nothing of this lesson whatsoever, so there is no way that it crosses over to the audience. Though, are these vampires really victims? Their whole defense is that they don't prey on humans, they just drink the blood of animals. And we see them bite several cows. But you know, that's still putting a blight on poor farmers' livestock. That was more than enough to get you burned at the stake in oldie times. The cows turn into flying demon cows, which, if these vampires have been living this way for centuries, is the world overrun by demon cows? That's still pretty heinous vampire activity. Of course, this is never explored or explained. But yes, these vampires are victims. Fashion victims. Oh! The film decides a handy visual shortcut for making them vampire-y was Shakespearean aristocratic garb.
I didn't wear the costume of an aristocrat. I am an aristocrat.
Okay, whatever.
But it doesn't make sense. If Rudolph's only about 300 years old, why is he wearing clothes from the 1500s? And if his parents want to be human so badly, why do they make a point of dressing so anachronistically regardless of their age? They're presented as out of touch with the modern era, but they can't possibly be that clueless. If you want your vampires to look cool in old-fashioned movie, please at least give it a good reason. Doing it because, well, that's just how vampires dress, right? It's just a kid's movie is lazy. And unfair to kids. Give them more credit than that. Another odd vampire cliche in this film is the way the adults react when they meet the vampire parents. Tony's mom and dad find them inexplicably alluring, but there's been nothing to set up that this is a power of the vampires before this scene. All we've been shown is that they are unfairly seen as scary and how that fact has plagued their entire existence. This sudden power of hotness and persuasive charm completely contradicts their struggle. But of course the humans have to find them seductive. That's like how vampires work, right? Yeah, sure, toss that in there. Lazy shortcuts. For something based off such a popular and enduring source of children's vampire media, couldn't the filmmakers have shown a little bit more respect and insight to the depths of the vampire? Subverting the vampire to be the victim instead of the villain is great. It's a lot less complex than the spectrum of vampires in the books this film is based on, but it's not a bad angle to explore. This particular film just explores it pretty badly. It is 17 years old, so maybe I should cut it some slack. There's a new animated version coming out this Halloween in 3D, so we'll see if they do something better with it.
Do you want sun-fried vampire on the menu?
But this one's cute. It's a cute movie. Just don't let your kids watch it until they're old enough to understand that revenge fantasies are not cool, dude. I am the Maven of the Eventide, and you want to see my fledgling spawn again, don't you? Alright. Oh, he's going to bed. Pleasant dreams, my child of darkness.
Nightmare, my nightmare.
Yes, nightmares. Though nice dreams can be good too. You could dream about slaying some werewolves.
No, only nightmare.
Oh, well, if you insist.
Not nice.
Make a friend if you can, a friend who can fly oh so high. Vampires.
Can you say I'm a big vampire?
No, I feel vampire.
You're a small vampire?
Mm-hmm. Whoa. I want some blood, please. Oh no, I baby vampire. It's Evie.